you wasting thousands of francs a year in Switzerland without even realizing it? If you're an expat with a strong income, this is for you, because even financially savvy professionals make these expensive missteps, like never requesting a rent reduction when the official reference rate drops. It's legal, it's easy, and most people simply overlook it. Or getting taxed by the church just because you didn't know you could opt out. I'll walk you through 9 costly traps that even high-earning expats fall into and how to fix them quickly and efficiently. This is about optimizing your finances in one of the most expensive countries on the planet. Let's get started. Hi, I'm Aysha van der Peer. I'm a cross-border investment specialist in Zurich, Switzerland, with 20 years in finance and a background that spans New York, Dubai, Amsterdam, Munich, and the UK. On this channel, we dive into the financial questions that matter most to high-earning expats and anyone living in a multi-country context. I get messages all the time that some of you didn't realize you didn't subscribe. So if you could do me a favor and double-check you're subscribed to this channel, that would be tremendously appreciated. This is the free thing that you can do if you have an interest in learning more about optimizing your finances as an expat to grow a large retirement portfolio. It also helps making sure I can keep this channel alive and continue to make the time to create these videos. So please double check if you're subscribed, and thank you so much. The first way many expats waste money is by not asking for rent decrease when the reference interest rate decreases. And so essentially in Switzerland, landlords/owners of a property are entitled to raise the rents every time this reference rate, which is set by the government, increases. And in the reverse, tenants are entitled to ask for a rent decrease when this reference rate is lowered. And this reference rate is set by the government. It's essentially a rate that is related to the overall interest rates that impact mortgages. And it can be announced at different times during the year whenever there is a major change in interest rate in the market, which impact all mortgage interest rates. The last decrease in this reference rate was on 1st September. And so if you're renting, you are entitled to ask for a reduction in rent. Now, there is a catch, which is if your landlord can say, well, the last few times the reference rate increased, we didn't increase the rent, so now we are not going to decrease it because we didn't increase it before. Anyways, it's not a guarantee, but if your rent has been increasing, and especially if you're new in that apartment, there is a very good chance that this will work and that the landlord will have to decrease your rent. And so on 1st September, the reference rates decreased from 1.50% to 1.25%. And as a result, you're entitled to claim a reduction of your rent by 2.91%. Now, it might not break the bank for you, but it's something that is good to know, because if you live in a place where your rent keeps increasing, over time, you can also keep that in check by making sure you take advantage of the decreases that you're entitled to whenever there is a reference rate change. Another way that a lot of expats waste money is by renting storage space for a lot of stuff that they no longer need. Okay, so we all have a tendency to do that. Well, I don't rent storage space, but I currently have way too much storage space available in this house. And so I have a tendency also to accumulate and keep things that I don't need. And so if you actually have to rent a place to store old furniture or old clothes that you think you will wear again when you will be back in shape or whatever the reason, then think again, because it's more a problem of procrastination and being realistic, which in the end costing you a lot of money and is something that you might kind of forget, and then you keep paying this rental that you actually don't really need. The next way a lot of expats waste money is when they choose a place to live. And when doing so, they look at the right apartment, the most convenient and pleasant location, but completely disregard taxes. Now, if you are taxed at source as an expat, the canton where you live matters, and the Gemeinde, the municipality, not so much. As soon as you have a certain income and you have to anyway file taxes, then choosing a municipality that is actually favorable in terms of taxation is very important. If you have assets, you really have to look at that, because you can literally double your taxes or cut them in half by choosing the right canton and the right municipality, which all apply different taxes. So this actually is my first criteria when I'm choosing a location. Now, I've been in this house near Zurich for many, many years, and I will be moving soon. I actually bought an apartment in Canton Zug, and you can be sure that I definitely looked at taxation, and that was one of my very important criteria for choosing this new location. The next way a lot of expats waste money is a little bit controversial, but essentially is by paying taxes to the church. Because when you register in Switzerland at the Contrôle des Habitants, at the Gemeinde, where you basically register as having moved to Switzerland, having moved to this municipality, you have to complete a questionnaire or answer a few questions, and they ask you, what is your religion? And if you put anything other than none, you will have to pay church tax, which is quite a bit, especially if you're a good earner. Now, if you are highly religious, if you go to church regularly, if you feel good about paying taxes to the church because you're really, using the infrastructure that they offer locally, then it makes sense. But if you don't, if you never go to the church, especially you never go here where you live, then you end up paying way too much in tax. So ideally, you want to move in somewhere, they ask you for your religion, and you just say none. And that's it, you're not going to pay church tax. If you are already registered, or if you're not sure, then you just call them, or you go there and you say, I want to change that, and you just make them change to having no religion, and then you won't need to pay church tax anymore. Another way a lot of expats waste money is by contracting life insurance, because they don't understand that the risk of dying and being disabled is already covered by your pension fund. And so in Switzerland, it works like that your employer is organizing and paying into the pension fund, so are you. In addition to pension benefits, you also have a life insurance built in. And so as a result, usually people who are employed don't need an additional life insurance policy, especially not one that comes with some kind of investment benefits where you get the money back if you don't die, which is most life insurance policies. This is anyway one of the worst way to invest. But even if you took one for in case you die for your children, if you are employed, if your partner is employed, you usually don't need that. Now, there are some cases where you could still want one. For example, you're self-employed and you don't have to pay into a pension fund. In these cases, especially if you have children and dependents, it can make sense to take on a life insurance policy, but in this case, you would take one that's only about you dying or possibly being disabled, although being disabled is always a little bit fishy because they will find a way to say, yeah, you can do some other work, and they will try a way not to pay. But having one for death benefit, there is no arguing. If you're dead, you're dead. So if you don't have this protection offered through your pension plan for whatever reasons, then you could consider take one, which is quite cheap actually if you only insure the risk of you dying and you want to make sure your children are well provided for. Another way a lot of expats and a lot of people, mind you, waste money is by contracting unnecessary insurance add-ons, for example, while traveling, while they already have coverage. And so you might already have coverage as part of your general insurance package. You might very well already have coverage through your credit cards. And so when you book a trip, you don't need to buy again the insurance coverage, because then you're like triple insured or something for this risk, whereas one is enough. Now, just one thing to remember is that if you have coverage through your credit card, this will only apply if you actually pay, or the car booking or whatever you are reserving and you want some insurance on it, you have to book that with that credit card that is providing you the insurance coverage. Another way a lot of expats waste money in Switzerland is by not reviewing and renegotiating their mobile phone and internet contracts after the 2-year promotion period. And that sounds complicated, but actually it's not. It's very easy, because if you make one phone call to the provider and tell them you saw another offer and you want them to align or you're going to change your plan, they usually very easily align themselves or give you the same reduction than to new clients. Or even if you try to change provider, they will give you a very good deal forever or for another 2 years. So this is really something worth doing every couple of years to make sure you're paying the best available rate. And I have some experience with that because my internet provider is UPS and I wanted once to switch to Swisscom, and I called them and they offered me the most amazing deals. And so this really works, and it's just a phone call away from you. The next way a lot of expats waste money is by converting money using their regular bank. And most banks give you very bad exchange rates. They take a lot of fees on top of the exchange, and you don't necessarily see that. And often they also charge you for paying something abroad, and then they charge you again for the conversion fee. And so you're really losing twice, and that's a way they make money out of you. And so it's important to be mindful of how you're converting money when traveling. And ideally, you want to have an account with a Revolut or a Wise or something like this, which give you very favorable exchange rate and multi-currency debit cards that you can use strategically for paying things as you travel or as you use money that you have on an account in another country and now you want to use that for your life in Switzerland. Just be mindful of the conversion rates because this is a sure way to waste a lot of money. And the last item I want to cover today is renter's insurance and essentially being over-insured when it comes to your renter's insurance, which is mandatory in Switzerland. If you're a tenant, you need to have this insurance that covers the inside of the apartment if there is something wrong, if there is a fire or some flooding, etc. However, a lot of people are over-insured in the sense that if you have older furniture or if you have IKEA furniture, I still have a few pieces, although they're slowly disappearing. But if you still have some rather not expensive furniture, if you don't have that much furniture, and you have some kind of standard policy where they insure you 2.5 room or 3.5 room apartment for a furniture equivalent of like $50,000, then you might want to review that down because that will decrease your premiums. And at the same time, if there is a fire and there is flooding, they're not going to pay more than what your furniture will be worth or will have cost. And so it's not like you would get 50,000 if you had 5,000 worth of IKEA furniture. Now, obviously, if you have very nice and expensive designer furniture or otherwise very valuable items in your apartment like jewelry, like a very nice piano, for example, then you might also want to look at the reverse. Are you insured enough compared to what you have? Now, I will tell you, I don't really do that because I'm a little bit allergic to insurance. I feel whenever we need them, they find a way to shy away and not pay much of anything. But obviously, there are also cases where it makes a lot of sense and it's very helpful to have good insurance. These small adjustments can add up to significant savings without compromising your lifestyle. And living in Switzerland is expensive, as you know. But with the right strategies, you can have more money to invest and make your money work harder for you. And if you found this helpful, subscribe to this channel for more insights on managing your money as an expat here in Switzerland. And don't forget to check the description below for resources on investing and planning for retirement in Switzerland. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.